if you go to a deeper layer of that, it really gets down to like what I would call our divine nature. It's who we are, is to create. Our truest selves are people who want to create, who want to produce. And the thing that stops us from doing that is primarily some of the traumas and issues and things that we learn in the world that actually like get stacked onto us that will stop us from ultimately being our true selves.
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results, whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go. I am honored to welcome Eric Thayne to the podcast today. Look, if you want to build a wildly profitable personal brand and grow your business online in 2025, Eric Thayne is your guy. Eric is an entrepreneur and a creator who has helped scale multiple seven-figure brands with organic content and creative marketing techniques. Look, dubbed the king of short-form video by industry experts, Eric has garnered over 500 million views on social media and has been featured in People, Cosmopolitan, Huffington Post, and the Associated Press. His video techniques and content systems are used by creators all over the world. So excited for this conversation. Let's go. All right. It is Sarah Grace. Welcome back to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. You guys, are you dying by the intro? Does anybody want to dive into like 500 million views online? Like that is astronomical to me. And I am so thrilled to have the amazing Eric Thayne here in the room. Welcome, Eric. Glad you're here.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Sarah Grace. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. I'm so glad that you're here. And I don't want to waste anybody's time. Here's the deal. Here's how I met you. And here's why I felt like we've got to have you on here because I want to dig deep into your brain. The first time that I ever dove into your world was centered around how you teach people how to actually create lighting in their offices and stuff like that. And I was like, ooh, he's going to judge me the minute that we get on this podcast because I've done the halfway method of lighting, my office and those kinds of things. But that was only the first impression I have of you is this guy knows how to do video, right? So this guy knows how to do video. He knows how to do short form content. And then, of course, you took the stage at Funnel Hacking Live. And of course, then you had your book, Create, Not Capture, which we'll dive into later. And I was so fascinated by this whole idea of how do you get 500 million views online without getting sucked into doom scrolling and comparison and all those kinds of things. And so we're going to dive deep. But for those that don't know you and don't know kind of where you came from, don't know that you drive a Tesla, we're going to talk about that in a minute, right? Like give us a 3 to 4 minute version of what got you started in this world, why video, like tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, I'll tell you. It sounds like we're going to go deep on this, so this will be really fun.
Let's go.
There's like two parts to me, there's the creator and the entrepreneur, and I've always been like the combination of those two things, and I feel like that's like my mission in life is to help creators be entrepreneurs and help entrepreneurs be creative. And when I actually started my first business on MySpace. So anybody remember the MySpace days?
I do.
That was my very first business. I was early on MySpace, early on Facebook, early on Instagram, early on every social media platform, like a day one user. And my whole goal was like, I just want to figure out how to do what I love and then get it out there in front of people and make money from it, frankly.
Cool.
And so I was on MySpace. I was actually selling t-shirt designs to screamo bands on MySpace for a little while, and then got into design and web development and music production. I owned a recording studio, film production, started shooting like really high-end commercials for luxury hotel brands, and then got into the online world and started selling online courses around filmmaking and lighting, like you're talking about. Built up a multi-seven-figure business doing that. And then the funny thing about all of that is that I got into film production. I started producing videos for clients, but my entire business, up until that point for the first 10, 15 years was always helping other people grow their business, right? And it was, either through viral videos, which we produced over 500 million views for clients. And by the way, that was back when a view actually meant something. It wasn't like now, like TikTok, somebody scrolls past your video and they count it as a view. That was like, those are real views, right? And we got people featured on People, Huffington Post, Gizmodo, ABC, like everything. And we did a lot of that. And I did a lot of, web design and development for people and helping them grow their business. And it was all for them. And the funny thing is, it hit a point where I was growing my own business and running primarily Facebook ads to make it happen. But I hadn't ever built my own personal brand, right? I always saw myself as like a behind the scenes, behind the camera kind of guy. And I was helping other people do it. But I never really focused on building my own personal brand. And it became a problem because I had a message that I wanted to share with people. I had like ideas that I wanted to get into the world. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to share these things and I wanted to help people. And I wanted to, for my business, I wanted to get more attention for it and more people to know who I was so that I could grow my business and I could actually do more with my life. I've always been that type that was very like ambitious and like wanted to do something. And so if there's anybody listening to this podcast and they're going, I'm that type of person. Like, I just know that I'm like called to do something with my life. I'm called to put something out there, whether it's a business or a mission or a nonprofit or a charity or whatever it is. And I want to get it out there. And I want to get over the blocks and the fears of putting myself out there. Like, just know like that was me. I had that feeling I needed to do that. And it was when I started leaning into that and making that happen and building my own personal brand, that's when really things started to really take off. And it started to work. It grew pretty fast. And I started developing systems and processes around how any entrepreneur or anybody really, if you're not an entrepreneur, you want to become an entrepreneur, anybody can get a message out there and get it in front of people and start building an audience and a community of people that are rallying around that cause. And then how to monetize it as well and to grow your business, grow your life, and just build the thing that you have inside of you.
It's a noble calling. Like, it really is to say, I have a message and I am here to help other people get that message out. And what I'm fascinated by, like, I know quite a bit about you. Like, I've read the book, I've done all the things. I didn't know you did luxury hotel filming and
videos.
I've
done a lot of things.
And I have a question about that, because there's often this sort of, you're either going to do the Amazon thing where there's not a face behind the brand. And you could argue that, but like, this is just very much a company and a culture and a logo versus I am an actual creator and there's a face behind what I do and a calling behind what I do. Like, is there a right or wrong approach? Because what if someone's listening and they're like, I'm not good on camera. Like, I'm shy. I don't want to be the face of it. I'm just going to build a different kind of brand. How do you help people navigate that?
Yeah. So here's how I would look at that. Certainly there's other ways to grow businesses, and there are big businesses that aren't a personal brand, right? So this is a different type of business. You look at Apple or Nike or Coca-Cola, but notice how those companies do lean into other faces in order to build their brand, right? So Nike's, it's all LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Coca-Cola, they do a lot of their commercials are very lifestyle focused around people, and they're getting content creators to create content for them. Apple really was like built around Steve Jobs and is now more so around Tim Cook. But notice how, it's not as powerful. But you notice that even companies like Apple, like their executives are on Twitter and are on social media and are posting and talking about it. Elon Musk, I think, is a really good example of this. He owns all these companies. He does all these things. Like, people care so much more today about the faces behind the brands that they buy from. They want to know, what are the values of this brand? What are the things that they care about? And most of that stems from the values of the leadership and the owners. And so if you're building a company, okay, if you're going to go that approach, you're like, I want to build a company, that's fine. But in today's day and age, there's got to be some element of a face, right? Whether that's, a hired face or it's the leader of the company, it's going to be way more powerful if you build it generally around a personal brand, because that's just what people want. Now, the reason why I really push the personal brand thing hard is because, like I was talking about earlier, if you're the type of person that you're like, I'm going to do something with my life, I'm going to build this company, I'm going to do this thing, and you're not the type of person that's like, I'm just building this thing for a year here and then I'm done, right? Because like, if you ask me, like, that's not me. Like, I don't think I'll ever retire. I have got that drive in me, that ambition. Like I want to do things. And when I finish doing those things, I'm going to do another thing. And so to me, building a personal brand is not just a quick, overnight tactic or strategy for growing a business. It's like, this is actually like accompanies my entire life. This is, if I've decided that my life is going to be me doing things and building things and making things, which that is a decision I've already made, that's what I will do, then I would be well suited to be building a personal brand while doing that, because it's only going to make it get easier and easier over time, rather than starting a company, then selling it, and then starting over from scratch again. It's like when you build that brand, that audience, that following around you and what you do and what you're interested in, you get to take that with you. Okay. It becomes so valuable because now, like Elon's a good example. Like he owns Tesla and the Boring Company and SpaceX and X now, and like all these things. Like he can buy another company, or he can move over here, he can sell something, he can do something else. People continue following him through these different ventures, right? It's not the company that they're that interested in. It's more the person behind the company. And ultimately, if I'm going to build something in my life, or multiple things, and pivot over time, I want to build something alongside that can accompany me through that and just help that process to be easier and easier every time.
Ooh, and I perceived something interesting in what you said when you said, when you become kind of the embodiment of that brand, and you make a decision that this personal brand, like it's me living and breathing and building and doing all these things. And you've made that commitment. I've made that same commitment. One of the things that seems to make that easier is you're not faking anything. Like it grows as you grow. And there can often be this exhausting nature of maybe a typical, I need to be an influencer and perfect and like whatever. But like, okay, you laugh. I'm going to pause there. Tell me about the influencer world and what you've experienced.
Well, I think like a lot of times people get into this world and they think that the solution, the answer to their problems is to like show up as perfect online. Because if I can show people how successful I am, then they will like me more. And a lot of that probably speaks to deeper traumas and things that, we don't need to go that deep on this, but there's a lot of that's like, this need for attention, for people to like you, or this false pretense that like I need to be perfect, and the more perfect I am, the more people will like me. And man, in all the years of doing this, what I've learned is that the opposite is actually true. And it's kind of a hard pill to swallow sometimes, that you're like all this, because you think about it, you've spent your whole life becoming good at what you do, becoming the expert, becoming fantastic at this thing, and becoming, perfect, quote unquote, perfect at it. And yet now the thing that is going to make you more successful and make people actually be interested in you is not being perfect at it, or more so, I would say, allowing people to see that you are not perfect, right? And so I do think authenticity plays a huge role in content creation, because as long as people want to connect with the faces behind the brands, those faces need to be legitimate. They need to be real, and they need to come across real, because ultimately the goal of all of this is to build trust with an audience. And the moment you are parroting one idea or one value, or putting something out there because you think it's what people want, and then ultimately you come back and people find out that's not what you really believe, or it's not aligned with your actions, you're just eroding trust with your audience.
Wow.
And so ultimately that authenticity, that realness, right, is crucial. I think the word authenticity it's kind of like a buzzword, where everybody's like, oh, I'm going to make a video in my pajamas because that will make me authentic. That's not authentic. That's you trying to be authentic. As long as you're trying to be authentic, you're not being authentic, because when you're being something, you don't have to try to be that thing. You're already just being it, right? So you don't need to go try to, well, putting pajamas on and making a video in my PJs is authentic. It's not so much that. It's so much more actually just accepting ultimately that you are who you are. You are as good as you are at what you do. You are as perfect as you are. You are as good at making videos as you are right now. Everything that is happening for you right now is the way that it is. And that's not going to change in this moment. It will over time. You'll get better and better at it over time. But as of right now, who you are is who you are. And you just have to fully come into acceptance of that. And if you can do that, and if you can accept, like, I am okay the way I am with my flaws and all, and you can lean into that, you will be stepping into your greatest power as a creator. You will be stepping into your biggest opportunity as an influencer, and you will connect with people on a deeper level than you'd ever be able to by trying to be something that you're really not.
I'm fascinated. This is a common theme with an interview that I did. It's already been published, so people can go back, with Cody Jefferson. And he talked about the importance in a marriage, particularly for a man, I'm sure for a woman, that you must accept that you are divinely and beautifully made. Period. And enter the marriage in that way, with your imperfections and with the tough things about you and the ugly things about you and the failures about you. And so I'm really fascinated to actually hear this from a new lens, similar thread of what that looks like actually online, right? And how that can really help a creator get their message out. And so I want to put your feet to the fire for a minute. What is something about you that has been really hard for you to accept, as far as how?
Yeah, you're really going to go there, aren't you?
Let's go.
For me to accept, I do think that there's parts of my personality, and I think this is a lifelong process because I'm still in that. But especially early on when I was starting to build this personal brand. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. I had this extreme fear, and in some ways I still do, but I had this extreme fear of making anything on the internet that wasn't perfect. So, and a lot of that comes from my filmmaking background, because I do have a desire and a care to make things that look nice and the lighting's good and everything like that. I think part of it also comes from my audience initially was filmmakers, right? And so if I didn't make it perfect, I would get criticized. And, and I got a lot of hate from people. And when you start putting yourself out there and you start getting a lot of hate for it, that can be traumatic. Okay. That can cause problems and it can cause blocks long term. And I think that kind of happened for me for a while, because I really, and I got into this thing where I really felt like I had to make the lighting. And when I talk about perfect, I really mean like visually perfect, right? Everything had to be like, I would get this physiological reaction to the idea of shooting something on my phone, right? It was like, it has to be on, I was shooting my content on a $20,000 cinema camera. I had like thousands of dollars worth of lighting and gear and everything at my office to make it look nice. And I was doing this. Obviously I still do it now. You can see, if you're watching the video here, you can see the setup, like if I do it, but there's a difference between doing that because I'm scared of what people are going to think, which was the reality for me for a long time. Yeah. And doing that because I'm just passionate about it and I love it. And I like making things that are high quality. So if you look at my content now, you'll see a big difference in that, I still do shoot a lot of high quality stuff because I enjoy that, because it's part of who I am and my experience, my background. Yeah. But I've become okay with allowing, sometimes you just need to make something on your phone. Sometimes you just need to be more casual about it. And that's all the video needs to be. And so I've been able to overcome that, I would say.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated by this idea of like, I found a space in which I can be loved and imperfect at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. And how that has allowed you to translate into not only getting your message out there, but assisting so many other people in getting their message out there. So if you're sitting in the room, I know some of your clients, and I'm not going to name anybody by name, but one of the things that one of your clients told me was your ability to allow people to just simply calm down about the fact that this is about to be captured, right? And tell me a little bit about helping people just chill so that they can be, like you said, authentic, that buzzword, I don't have a better one for it, but so that you can capture their brilliance. How do you do that?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with people. Something that I've said from early on is that social media content creation is a personal development journey. It really is. The people who become the most successful at it and become the best at it often are the people who are able to overcome the blocks that get in the way of doing it. And there are a lot of blocks. I've worked with entrepreneurs who are brand new. I've worked with entrepreneurs who have 9-figure businesses. And I see the same blocks of fear in front of the camera, Certainly there's some personality types that don't really have that, but a lot of people do in some shape or form. And it usually shows up in the form of like, you're good at what you do. You know how to talk about it. Some people even could get on stage and talk about it without a problem, or they could certainly host a coaching call or a Zoom meeting or be in a room of people and teach the thing and just talk about it for hours and hours on end.
Yeah.
And yet when you turn on the camera and you hit record and there's that flashing red light and you're staring into this like one-eyed monster of the lens, you freeze up, right? It's like, what do I do? And it comes out choppy and you're thinking about what you're saying. You're thinking about how you look. You're thinking about how you smell. You don't even know if the people on the other side can smell you. You're thinking about anything and everything but the message that you're trying to share. And if we kind of think about if that's what's happening, but the goal, what we want to happen when you get on camera is to be able to speak in such a way that you're not even thinking about any of that. Like right now, as I'm talking to you, there's a message in my head. There's a point that I'm trying to make. I'm not controlling the words coming out of my mouth. They're just flowing. They're just happening. They're just coming out, right? Yeah. The moment I start thinking about what words I'm using and how I'm structuring it and everything like that, it will start to get disjointed and not work, right? And so a lot of the work in helping people to become more confident and natural on camera is in helping them figure out how to get out of their mouth, out of the words, and honestly, into their head, but into their subconscious, right? And so if you can sit and really have this strong subconscious understanding of what you're trying to teach people and then just allow the words to come out, your content is going to be more natural. It's going to sound better. It's going to be more relatable. Like people are going to love it more. And the problem with most people is that they don't believe that, right? They still have this belief that what's going to make this content work is if it's perfect. And again, that's coming into full self-acceptance that my ability to speak, my language, my vocabulary, my grammar, my all that kind of thing is as good as it's going to be right now in this moment. It will never be better than it is right now in this moment. It will get better over time through repetitions and through practice. But right now, it is as good as it ever will be in this moment. And therefore, I just need to hit publish. And if you can come into acceptance of that this video may not be perfect, that it might be a little bit longer than it needs to be. Maybe it goes on 3 minutes instead of the 60-second short form video. Maybe it's going to be a little bit longer. Maybe you're going to stumble over your words. Maybe you're going to whatever. But if you can come into acceptance of that, that's what it is. And I will allow this to get better over time by improving myself over time. But for right now, I'm going to be as good as I can be, which is as good as I am right now. That's when you'll get over that block of trying to figure out how to manufacture something that's going to be perfect and rather just allow it to flow the way that it's going to flow. And ultimately, the goal of improving yourself over time is going to happen so much faster when you do allow that process. And again, for some people, this is an energetic block. For some people, it's just like they just heard what I just said and they're like, oh, I'm free. I can do this now. Cool. For some people, congratulations, right? For some people, it's an energetic block. For some people, this goes back to a deep trauma. And then there's therapy for those things. There's things that you can do there. You know, it's the process is working on yourself and becoming a better version of yourself and coming into self-acceptance in order to be able to do that. But ultimately, that's going to give you the ability to share your message. Now, what we were talking about authentically, right? You're being you. You're being real. You're presenting it the way that you present it right now, that you know how to do it right now. Again, that may change over time, but right now you are who you are. You are the way that you are, and allowing that to be that is what's going to allow you to step into your power, right?
And it's so enlightening to me that this is a problem for 9-figure business owners and for beginners, that you see this over and over.
You would be surprised. You'd be surprised.
I probably would. And I'm going to ask you about it after we stop. Okay, I'll ask you more about that.
Can I give people a practical tip on overcoming this?
Please.
Because we're talking about a lot of deep stuff, but I want to kind of come to the surface and be like, here's something you can do to help you with this.
Yes.
This is a principle that we teach our clients, and it's been really valuable for me. It's something that I discovered for myself, and we discover it for other people, and it's been helpful to them as well. And it's this principle that I call free speaking. So a lot of people, like their main concern and why they freeze up on camera is just because they just haven't done a lot of it. right? You haven't talked to the camera very much. And it's different talking to a camera than it is talking to a human. And so, a lot of it's just really just kind of getting yourself comfortable, and not just a one-time thing, but like maybe before you do this every single time. And so one of the things I started doing, I borrowed this from writing. In writing, people talk about free writing, where you sit down with a journal and you just write stream of consciousness for 15 minutes. Whatever comes to your mind, you just write it. And I used to do that in my journal. And I was like, well, that's really helpful in getting comfortable with writing and thinking.
Yeah.
What if you could do that with recording a video? And so I started doing this thing called free speaking, where I literally turn on the camera, I hit record. Nobody's ever going to see this recording. I'm in a quiet room. Nobody can hear me. No, there's nobody around. I'm never going to share this video with anybody. And then I'll just hit record and I will just start talking to the camera. And just so you know, it usually starts out with, okay, I'm here. I'm talking to the camera. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm just going to share whatever comes to mind. And you'll notice within about 30, 45 seconds, even a minute, ideas will start to flow. And you'll start talking and you'll talk more and more and more. And then you might even get, 5-10 minutes in to where you're like, actually, these ideas are really good. And I'm sharing this and I'm in flow and I'm not thinking about the words that I'm saying. And it's now just coming out. And you get 15, 20 minutes in and you'll get to the point where, or at least I do, where I'm like, I actually want to like record something right now that I would share with people because I'm so in flow. I'm so in the moment. I'm teaching this stuff and it's coming out and it's making sense. Could I just like pick a topic right now? And then I'll be like, what's a topic I could talk about? Okay, let's do this. Let's record a video on it. And you end up by the end of the session having like maybe some content that you might want to put out there. And even if you don't, it's a really good activity to do before a recording session. Spend 15 or 20 minutes just talking to the camera and just relaxing, just getting comfortable in front of the camera, allowing yourself to move and not be so stiff all the time, and actually pause in your language and think and talk and like a normal human. By the way, that's how we communicate. And when you'll do that, you'll find yourself when it actually comes time to, okay, now I'm going to record a video, that you feel so much more loose and so much more free to do it the way that you want to do it.
Oh my gosh. What a fabulous practical tip. And it actually dives into something you were talking about. Okay, we learned how long ago to do viral videos when actual views meant something, right? Okay, 500 million views, all those things. And now we're almost on the other end where we're like, let's just free speech and let's be authentic and let's do those kinds of things. So is virality manufactured? Has that game changed? And I just want to go back and forth with this on you. Like, if you want to go viral, do they just need to buy your $5,000 program and you can teach them how to go viral and do all the things? Is it manufactured?
Yeah, it can be. It really can be.
Yeah.
So there's a balance, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I think a lot of people miss is that, yes, virality can be manufactured to an extent in terms of it is beneficial if you're going to create content to have an understanding of what gets shared and why. And the more that you can do that, the more you can lean into that for content that you want to go viral, that you want a lot of people to see. You can, in a way, manufacture that. Now, manufacturing it doesn't mean that immediately everything's going to go viral. It's always at bats. It's always experimentation, iteration, and try to make this happen. But as long as you're applying viral principles to a video, that video generally is probably going to perform better than ones that you don't. Okay. So if I get on camera, for example, and I go, all right, guys, I just wanted to get on here and make a video where I'm talking about this thing. And so I'm going to talk to you about this and it's going to be really good. And I'm just, not speaking the language of social media. It doesn't matter. The content could be amazing. The ideas could be amazing. It could be like the most revolutionary thing ever, but it's not going to get views because it doesn't follow the language of social media, right? Except, or on the flip side, if I were to take the same principle, the same idea, and actually structure it into a format that actually makes sense, then I can actually improve the performance of that video. Now, there's a balance there between having a really good hook and having good content and being concise and making it actually valuable. And so, a lot of that tends to be like scripted content because you're taking your ideas and you're scripting it out in a way that's going to make sense for that. But then sometimes the middle part of the content is where you really just kind of open up and start sharing a little bit more about it.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I like to do to help find that balance between scripted and real is I will create content that's scripted, but I want it to be scripted in my voice. And so I actually start the idea in my head and I go, here's something that I could talk about. And what I'll do is I will record that idea. And so like I'll open up Apple Notes on my iPhone and I'll just record a voice memo of me teaching the principle. Okay. In my voice, in my language, just teaching it.
Yeah.
No pressure. It's not recording. I'm not putting this anywhere. I'm just recording it. And then I'll take the transcript and I'll take that transcript and put it into my editing doc. And then I will go through and I'll kind of structure it and clean it up a little bit because I want something that's real and authentic and it's me and it's the way that I would teach it. But then I also want it to perform well. And so I need it to be structured a little bit nicer and a little bit cleaner in order for it to fit that language of social media. So that's kind of how I approach that sometimes.
Well, and this is making sense when you said at the beginning, I'm trying to help entrepreneurs become creators and creators become entrepreneurs. And I imagine you have to kind of start on different ends with each personality. Is that your experience?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's a different approach.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So I would be way remiss if we did not talk about your book launch. Okay. We're recording this about 9 days before it, doors actually open for. I hope I get to be part of that in-person party of when it happens. We're going to see if we can make it happen. But it's so interesting that your title is even that balance, right? Of creation and capturing and this kind of thing. So talk about your book, talk about why this even exists and why is this your message right now?
Yeah. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. I really believe a lot in this book and it's powerful and it's already making a really big impact on the world. And that means more to me than anything.
Yeah.
When I originally wrote this book, the title, in fact, if you're watching this on video, you can see behind me, I've got a neon sign that says create, don't capture, right?
Yeah.
The principle behind this book came long before the book. Back when I was teaching with filmmakers, one of the principles that I taught them is that a videographer simply captures the world as it is. A cinematographer, however, creates a world. And the idea was if you want to be a cinematographer and you want to really produce beautiful art, you need to focus on this creation of the world rather than just like pulling up a camera and hitting record and starting to talk,
right,
or starting to record whatever it is. And so there's a difference between those two approaches to anything that you do. And I started to realize over time, like this doesn't just apply to filmmaking. This applies to entrepreneurs and business ownership and content creation and life in general.
Yeah.
In general, if you can really approach your life from a standpoint of creation, which I believe that we're all meant to be creators. That's who we are. It's our divine nature to be creators. Well, if you can approach life from that perspective, you're going to, number one, do more for yourself, and number two, do more for the world than if you were to just show up and go through the motions and just simply capture, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the main principle of the book comes from. And I wrote the book originally, when I got asked to speak at Funnel Hacking Live, and I had these ideas for this book for a long time, and the opportunity came to speak at FHL and to give everybody a copy there. And I was like, you know what, I think this is the time to write this book and to get it out there. And so I wrote it actually very quickly. The ideas were years in the making, but the actual execution of getting it written was pretty quick because we needed to get it out there. And I was under a deadline. It was a miserable few weeks in terms of like late nights and not a lot of family time. And it was a lot, but we got it done, got the book done. And I really wanted this book to be something special, something amazing. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling my publisher on day one when we started working together, I pulled out a bunch of other books from other entrepreneurs and marketers and stuff. And I was like, look at all of these. This is not what we're doing. Not to throw a rock to anybody else's books, but there's a lot of books out there that are just kind of like a webinar transcript in a book. Yep. And I was like, this is not what we're doing. We are writing a real book here. And to me, that's what a real book meant, was something that was designed well, that had heart and energy and effort put into it, and really embodied the principle of the book, which was create, don't capture, right? I could simply capture a webinar transcript and put it in a book, or I could go and create something special. And so from the very beginning, that was the goal. Is like, I want this to be something that yes, it's going to be valuable. It's going to teach the tips and tricks on how to grow your business and create content and be successful with that. But it's also going to go deeper than that. It's going to make people feel something. It needs to have this heart to it, this understanding of what it means to be a creator, to put something into the world, to put it out there, and why you should do that, no matter who you are. And so we started working on this book, like I said, late nights, everything, getting it done. And it came to FHL. I had 5,000 copies of it printed that I paid for to put on every chair at FHL. And got up on stage. I talked about it. The event staff had told me, they said, you can put the books on all the chairs. But just so you know, you're probably going to have about 500 books left over at the end of the event. Because some people just leave them and whatever, and you just have them left over, and we'll collect those for you and we'll give them to you. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I can do other things with them. I need to give one to my mom anyway. So it's totally fine. I'll just, that's fine. So I got up on stage. I talked about it. Kind of, being on stage really started the movement of this book, and talked about like the movement behind it and what was important about it to me. And so I got out there, did the whole thing. And then after I spoke, I went to the back of the room to the staff, and I was like, okay, I need the extra books. And they said, they're like, they're gone.
They're gone.
Like the books are gone. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? They're like, they're gone. I was like, they can't be gone. Like I need these books. I need to do things with it. I need to give one to my mom. I need an extra book. And they're like, no, they're gone. Like literally people were taking multiple copies. They were coming to the back of the room. They were grabbing more copies of it that they wanted to give to clients and friends. And people are so impacted by the book. And I was like, this can't be happening. You got to help me find some more books. And they're like, well, there might be a box somewhere, like we can check for you. And so I went and scoured the whole hotel, all the back rooms and everything, trying to find it. And we ended up finding one box of books left over. And I gave it to the event staff, and I was like, do not give these to anybody. Like, these are mine. They have to be done. We can't give these out. And it's kind of funny because at the end of the event, like everybody was coming out of the room, and there's tons of people walking through the hallway. And I remember the event staff was actually out there in the hallway handing out all the other speakers' books because they had so many extra copies that they needed to get rid of. And that's not to knock on the other speakers, but kind of to knock on the other speakers a little bit. But they're handing out their books and trying to get them out there. Meanwhile, this book that I'd written, like, you couldn't find another copy of it because people were taking multiple copies. And that was my first indicator that, like, okay, there's something here. There's something, like, I think we did it. There's something special about this. And, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I got home from the event, and at first it was like kind of just everybody was traveling home from FHL. And then little by little, it started to happen where I started getting messages and DMs. And I started people started posting videos reviewing the book and posting it out on social media. And then people were starting book clubs and wanting the book. And I started getting messages from people saying, where can I get this book? So-and-so told me about it. What is happening? And you can go to Google and you can search like Eric Thayne, and like the first thing that comes up is create, don't capture. Like, people are Googling this and trying to find it. Yeah. It's not anywhere. You can't get it anywhere. Like, the book isn't finished yet. It's not even done. And this ripple effect was just crazy. It started building. Like, even today, it's been a year and a half since that pre-launch. Even today, I still get almost every day a DM or a message from somebody asking where they can get the book. And I'm like, well, just get on the wait list. Get on the wait list. Like, it's not done yet. And we built up this huge wait list of people that are interested in it. And the ripple effect of this movement, people have been sharing it with each other. And like, there's so many people that have read it that weren't even at FHL because somebody gave them a copy of the book. And all these things have happened. And it just turned into this movement, this really special thing where people are like really embodying the ideas in this book and going out and creating content and putting their message out there and getting in front of people. And so it's really like personally fulfilling to see that happen. And the reason why I haven't launched it for a year and a half is because it wasn't actually even done yet. That was just like the first pre-release copy to get it ready for FHL, and then I still needed to finish it. And so since then, I've reworked it and updated it and remodeled some of the things in it and added new doodles and graphics. I've added over 5,000 words to the book, like created this whole new thing. And now officially, finally, we are going to be launching the book, and people are going to get access to it for the very first time, the official final version of it. So all the people that have been waiting for so long, it's finally coming to a culmination, to an end. And so next Friday is when we're going to be hosting the whole event. There's going to be a 2-hour live virtual event where I'm going to be teaching some of my biggest insights in content creation and personal branding and how to grow. And especially now today in this world of like AI and new technology and the way things are happening now, it's interesting. A lot of the principles that I wrote in the book initially a year and a half ago kind of fell on deaf ears because it was almost too early for its time.
It
like a lot of
wasn't
people
threatened. It hadn't been threatened. Yep.
Yeah. People didn't really get it because it was too early. And nowadays you look at it now and you read the book and you're like, oh yeah, this is absolutely speaking to this year, 2025, because of the way things have changed and the need because in today's day and age, it's not just a nice to have to build like a personal brand and be connecting with people. Whereas that's what it was. Now it's like crucial. You can't just go capture content and just make what everybody else is making and expect to stand out anymore. The people that are going to stand out are the ones that are really building something meaningful and have those aspects of their personality and they're real and they're authentic. And that's really what matters now. And it's just going to become more and more important the more AI takes over the world. So that's what the book is about. That's what's in there. That's what's teaching. I'm really excited to share it with people, and that's what's happening.
Oh, it's brilliant. And the official day is March 14th, 2025. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. So whenever you're listening, people, or on YouTube, like March 14th, 2025, if it's after that date, go. Don't be the person that's having to get everybody else's books out in the hallway that you don't want anyway, right? And something that really aligns with when I, preparing for this interview, reread the book, dove into that, is I think you actually really challenge what creation means. Because in the world of AI, you can put in a prompt and content can be created, right? Whatever. And you just kind of want to throw up when you hear that kind of phrase. And so I do believe that AI is bringing a real threat to what real creation is, right? Publishing is not creation, and just putting words on a page is not creation. And you challenge that. And I think that there is actually also another threat that comes into the human soul, particularly for people who have a religious affiliation. And you and I have very similar beliefs about God and our role as creators, and a partnership there of why we were sent on earth to do what we were supposed to do. I have found many entrepreneurs who have a faith background and belief that they very much believe in God has a plan for me. And I'm here to execute on that plan, or I am here to follow that plan, or wander on that plan, right? Versus how much say do I have in my impact on the world by also not challenging what God wants me to do? Like, have you ever seen that in your faith culture or experiences, that can also be a stumbling block for people?
Yeah, I really believe in this idea that we're all creators. Right. And, if you're Christian, then you understand that God is the creator of the world, and we were all made in his image, and we were created to be creators, to create. And ultimately that's the whole plan. That's the whole goal, is for us to come here and to be creators and to build something and to experience this life and do something with it. Right. Versus, just capturing or just going through the motions and just living life without actually making anything of it, being a consumer rather than a producer. And so I really do believe that. And so I talk a lot about, the principles in the book of like what it means to be a creator and to create content in the context of content creation and entrepreneurship and business. But then if you go to a deeper layer of that, it really gets down to like what I would call our divine nature. It's who we are, is to create. Our truest selves are people who want to create, who want to produce. And the thing that stops us from doing that is primarily some of the traumas and the issues and things that we learn in the world that actually like get stacked onto us that will stop us from ultimately being our true selves. Right. Which is to be that creative type. And so when I talk about being a creator or being creative, I'm not talking about artists or photographers, it certainly applies to them, but it's not just that. It's anybody. It's you're going to put something into the world. You're going to share something with people. There's we're meant to do that. We're all meant to do that, to be creative, to produce in the world, to build, to make, to put something out there. And that's going to be different for every single person. For some people it's entrepreneurship. For some people it's an art, or it's photography, or painting, or something else. It doesn't matter what it is for you, but my hope is with the book and with the launch and everything is that the goal is for you to know how to do it first of all, but also feel inspired to finally like have the courage to get out there and put your message in the world. Because I think if everyone sees themselves as a creator, as someone that can add to the world versus take away from the world, that ultimately is just going to make the world a better place, right? If we can all do that.
I love that. And I love the idea that, okay, if we view ourselves as creators, that is not going against who God created you to be. If you have a belief in a higher power, right? That is not going against it. That's actually the whole point, right? His work is you and helping you become the very best version of yourself. And I didn't think I was going to share this story, but I have this neighbor that is not an entrepreneur. Okay. But she loves this podcast and many other podcasts. And so she was saying, who are you going to interview? Who are you interviewing this week? Like she always asks me that, right? When I see her at church and I told her who I was interviewing, she has no idea who you are, right? She has no idea who you are. So I handed her my book that I'd gotten. I was one of the people that took to it, Funnel Hacking Live. Sorry, everybody. But I gave her one of my books and I said, okay, read this. This is the guy that I'm doing. She has no interest in being online. She has no interest in being a content creator. But I said, okay, what did you think? I said, I'm interviewing him. This was just yesterday. And she said, I was kind of blown away because I have no desire to create content. But the principles that I learned in the book made me realize that I actually want to be a creator of breaking family cycles that have been so hurtful to me. And so I just want to like pass that to you and say, I get that you're talking about videos. I get that you're talking about all these other things. But that core principle for her was, there is something in my life I want to change, and that I actually can be in the driver's seat of getting that message out just within the walls of my home. Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, that's amazing to hear that. I love hearing those stories of how it's impacted people. And the book does like focus a lot on entrepreneurs and people who've already kind of decided that they're going to go build something or do something, but it applies to anybody, even the people who are like, I hate social media. I don't want to be a content creator. I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to get myself out there. Everybody has something inside of them, whether they'll admit it or not, or whether they're aware of it or not, that they wish that they could change about the world, or that we wish they could teach people, or they could help people with, or they could do something. Because ultimately, I think that some of our greatest satisfaction in life and our greatest satisfaction in life comes from being useful to the world. It comes from making an impact. It comes from being somebody who actually affects change or does something. Because if you're not that, then what use are you to the world? Or it can feel like you don't have any use to the world. And that's one of the worst feelings in the world. I think it's the reason why people fall into depression and struggle with their lives and just kind of fall into a routine, because they get to a place where it's like, I just show up and do my job, but I'm not actually really doing anything. I'm not actually really building anything. And so like, what is the point of living? What is the point of even being here? Why am I here? And the way to find purpose in the world is finding a way to make yourself useful to the world. And I have heard that, over and over again from people who've read the book, that they feel like, oh, wow, I actually do have something that I could put out there. And I feel like kind of inspired to do that. And even if it's not the goal to become a massive influencer or to grow a huge business from it, it's like, I want to impact 10 people. I want to impact 100 people. I want to talk about this and just find a small group of my people who will talk about it with me. It can be really useful for that. And the strategies and the tactics in the book will teach you how to do that and how to get over those blocks, those fears of putting yourself out there and having that courage to like really just make something of it and take what you have inside of you, take what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, share it in an authentic way, in a real way that feels aligned for you, that doesn't feel scary, and that can actually, have this side benefit of impacting a lot of people. And ultimately, if you want to, can make you money as well. So that's kind of the whole idea.
It's brilliant. And I feel like it really comes full circle that everyone has something to offer. And you're providing a structure and a framework and ideas and actual, tactical things that people can do in order to act on these principles. Because I think everybody's like, yeah, I want to be authentic. And it's like, okay, put my pajamas on, like you said, to show that I'm doing whatever. Like, I'm sure you see so much of that. All right. So you have been so incredibly generous with your time. in talking with us today and in sharing your story and the importance of creating and not capturing. And so I want to just pick your brain about a couple of other things.
Sure.
Before we end out here. This is going to sound so random, but let's talk a little bit about Elon Musk. Okay.
Okay.
Is that what you were expecting?
No, I wasn't, but let's do it.
Let's do it. So you drive a Tesla truck, which is so great. Okay. Congratulations on that. So you are a Tesla fan. Sometimes, how do I say this? My editor's going to cut this out. When you get a character such as Elon Musk that is so incredibly controversial, okay, and you could even bring in Donald Trump in the same realm, okay?
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes it feels like there is a requirement in order to have an impact and to live big and to, honor who you are, that you kind of need to be a jerk and you kind of need to be disliked, or you kind of need to be really, really polarizing, okay? And I could not think of anybody more different than Elon or Donald Trump, regardless of how I feel about them, than you. And yet you are still teaching these same routes to how do we impact the world? How do we change the world? Those men are changing the world right now, right? Regardless of where you stand. Tell me a little bit about your brain around the character of Elon Musk, Donald Trump. Like, let's go. Let's talk about it.
I think so. Here's the thing. Yes, they are very polarizing characters and people that certainly, there's division around whether people like or dislike them. And I think our world has moved into an extremely divisive state, where people have a hard time, or it appears so. I don't want to make assumptions about people, but it appears that people have a hard time kind of seeing both sides of things and seeing the good through the bad or the bad through the good, and actually paying attention to like, what do I care about and what are my values and how do I want to make an impact on the world, and not discrediting the way that somebody else has decided to do that, because that's not really our place to judge either. And so while they are very polarizing characters, you would say, I do think that polarization does not have to be a strategy. And this is a thing that I have kind of a contrarian take on. There's a lot of people in marketing or in content creation that will teach this idea of you've got to be polarizing. And I think that falls for a lot of people in this realm of like, well, I don't really want to do that. Like, that sounds scary to me. You're like, I don't want to divide people. I don't want to make that happen. And so let me just reframe that for you. I don't think that the goal is to be polarizing. I think that the goal is to be real. And when you're real, there is no other choice but to be polarizing. That's the reality. And so as you grow and you start putting your ideas and your beliefs and your opinions and your thoughts into the world, there are going to be people who are going to disagree with you. The problem is what a lot of people do is they try to pad themselves from that. And so then they create this persona, or they have this part of them that wants to come in and try to see all the sides of things and say like, well, I understand this and whatever, and try to be totally professional so that nobody ever hates me or nobody ever dislikes what I say or has anything like that. I've certainly gone through that. In fact, in some ways I still go through that of like trying to figure out how can I really lean into who I am and me and my opinions and my values and my beliefs and morals. Yes. And I do think that the end result of doing that, of being real, which, by the way, being real doesn't mean being mean, okay? There are things about Donald Trump and Elon Musk that I would say are, go against my personal values, even though I generally, like, in other areas have admiration for them. But there are things that I'm like, well, I would never want to be that way, or I wouldn't want to do that. So I don't think that, being yourself means that you have to hate other people. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be as bold as them. You don't have to be... you don't have to have that the same character, but you do got to be real if you really want to make your impact, because you have a way of seeing the world just like they do. You have a way of understanding things just like they do, and it might be similar, it might be different, but you also have the ability and the option and the agency to put your way of seeing it into the world. And I do think that is part of being a creator. It's not intentionally trying to go divide people. In fact, the best creators in the world are not doing that. They're not trying to divide people. They're not, I'm going to go make this thing because it's going to get people really riled up. You'll see some people doing that. And I think it's, I don't know if I would say wrong, but it doesn't align with my values, I would say. So it's not intentionally trying to like divide people and make people mad so that I get engagement. I don't like that idea. But I do like the idea of boldly and confidently declaring your worldview and your beliefs and your mission and your impact and what you're trying to do with the world. And when you do that, there will be people who will strongly disagree with you, but there will be people who will strongly agree with you. And that is what I see happening with people like Trump and Musk. Yes, they have very bold worldviews and very bold opinions and very bold mission. And some people are going to agree with it and align with it and love it. Some people are going to disagree with it and not like it and have a different worldview. And that's fine. That's allowed. That's the way that the world is meant to be. And we're not meant to see things the same way. And so as a creator, that's your job, is to go out there and put things your way, to share your message with the world, and to align with the people who align with you so that you can build your community and your audience.
I love how you pass on the autonomy onto us as creators and say, you can worry all day about Trump and Musk or be mad or be cheering, but like, what are you doing?
Or you can go do your own.
Go do your own. Like, I think that is such a lesson in choice and agency that you have framed here. And something I will just hand over to you as a compliment is, I think there's almost a test case to see, am I being real or am I being divisive? Right? Am I being real or divisive? I love that you say that those are different things. The reality is, I've seen you on stage. I've met you in person. I'm now sitting here across the screen on a podcast. And I will tell everybody here with Eric Thayne, what you see is what you get in whatever setting you're in. Right? And I think that that is a sign or a byproduct of being real. Right? I also have no doubt that if I sat in a room with Trump and I sat in a room with Elon, or I sat in the room with whoever divisive, it probably would be what I see is what I got, right?
Yeah.
Like that they are operating from a place of their reality, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe that is a challenge to ourselves as creators of like, is what you see, what you get with you. Right? Mm-hmm. When people meet you and when they interact with you and when they converse with you and when they, do business with you, like, are you being real or are you just kind of being a jerk? Right? Or are you being inconsistent? Right? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that that's one thing that you can't fault people like them for is being real. I mean, they are nothing but real, right? In terms of just the way that they are. And you can like them or dislike them, but they are real. And I do think that, something that's important to me is that it's possible to admire some things about someone and, not align with other things about them. It seems like our world has just forgotten that that's normal and that's how it works. If you could take any of your closest friends or your spouse or anything, I guarantee you can find something that you don't admire about them or an opinion that you don't agree with them on. You're going to find that with everyone too. So to expect that people are going to align with you 100% in your viewpoints is just insanity, really. Mm-hmm. It's just that, you're not seeing it with some people. And most people are too afraid to go to those places where they disagree and have a civil conversation about it. And well, I say most people, I shouldn't say that, but I do think that it seems like a lot of people are don't have the communication skills to be able to have a conversation about things that they disagree on. Which, by the way, is the reality for every single person that you meet in the world. Yes. And to be okay with that, to be able to sit in that and be okay with, the world isn't just the way that I see it. It's the world is seen in a different way by 8 billion people. There are 8 billion viewpoints of ways of looking at the world, and mine isn't the correct one. Mine is the correct one for me. And that is great. And it is what I want to put out there. It's what I want to align with people on. It's what I want to share with people. It's what I want to promote because I believe that it's the path forward. But sitting in a place of judgment of somebody else for having a different path forward is, you're kind of pushing the problem and doing more harm than good.
I think your comments for the last 2 or 3 minutes are going to be a core memory for me. Just in really understanding, because it's not going to get quote unquote better, because this is just how the world works, right? And we can really step up to the plate and take our own responsibility for our role in it and how we can bring more light and goodness to the world. I love it. So in typical unreasonable autonomy fashion, I'm going to give you a couple of 3 rapid fire questions that should be easy for you to answer. But first, let me just express absolute gratitude. Thank you for your time and your boldness and your year and a half of getting this book ready. Like, Eric, the time is now. It's time. Are you ready to put this out there?
Yeah, it has been absolutely a journey of trying to get this done, and so much work and so much money, frankly, has been like dumped into this project to make it happen. And I'm excited to finally get it out there. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come and share it with your people.
Oh, everybody needs it. Everybody needs it. We'll be sure to have links all over the place down below where people can make sure that they grab that hot off the press. It's going to be great. Okay, so first thing is, besides your own book, what is a book that everyone should read?
Oh man, I feel like this would change. Like my answer would be different every month.
Amen.
Because there's so many. But I do want to. There's a book that I read recently, and I'll just go off kind of the most recent one. It's called The Courage to be Disliked. And I mean, powerful title just to begin with, right? And I think that title will immediately resonate with a lot of people, especially if you're thinking about creating content and wanting to put your message out there. The Courage to be Disliked, very powerful book. In fact, I saw it recommended by Andrew Huberman, who I really align with on a lot of things, and I love his content. But he talked about it. He was like, man, how different would the world be if everybody read this book?
I agree.
And the reality is true. And that book is incredible. And it explores a form of psychology that's kind of lesser known, and that I think is really fascinating and interesting in terms of how to deal with like the issues that come up and that cause you to be afraid of people disliking you. And how that ties into all aspects of your life, which it actually solves a lot of things. So that's one.
Incredible. And that was like the one book recommendation we got from our therapist. Because
really?
Therapy just like you. And I am like, it'll change your business. It'll change your marriage. It'll change all the things. So everybody can read it. I love it. Okay. Second question is, what podcast is in your ear most often?
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
That's kind of more my go-to.
Is there one that you have re-listened to more than once?
Well, I mentioned Huberman before. I do pay attention a lot to Huberman and watch his YouTube videos and listen to his podcasts. I love his takes on science and neurology and just all of his like health protocols, which is a different topic, but a lot of it's health, and I am very like, it is something that I'm passionate about, is health protocols and optimizing my body and sleep and things like that. So that is something that I pay attention to. I really do enjoy that, but I also really enjoy his nature in being very, very educated and very smart and sharing, brilliant ideas. And he has the background and the research and the experience to back it up, which I think is really powerful. And, a lot of content creators are really just kind of reparroting ideas and regurgitating the same things. A lot of stuff is new and it's original and based in research, but then also very practical and tactical on how to implement these things in your life and how to optimize your health and your body. So that's one that I really enjoy.
He is new to me, so I'm excited to dive into that world. Okay, last rapid fire question, and then we'll wrap this up. What is a bucket list item that you have not done yet?
Oh man, so many.
Launch my book. Just kidding.
Launch my book. Yeah, for sure. I'll share a funny one with you because it's kind of fun. I have been to all but one continent in the world. And so one bucket list item that I may do at some point is to try and visit the last one, which, as you probably guess, is Antarctica, which is not a place that like a lot of people just go on a vacation. But just to be able to say that I did visit every single one of them, that is something that I'm like, man, it would be really cool, like take an expedition to Antarctica someday. So there you go.
It'll happen. It's going to happen. I have no doubt. And I'll make sure to whisper that to Becca so she knows to be part of the journey. That's amazing.
I don't know if she'd want to come, but we'll see.
Well, this has just been such an honor for me. I just really, what you see is what you get. And I so respect the work that you are putting out into the world. And so thank you for your time. And let's end with this last question. Imagine the end of your life. Okay. The end of your life. You've raised the family, you've done the marriage thing, all the things. What do you hope you are most known for?
Man, that's a great question. I think for me, it's mostly just having lived a good life, tried at everything, tried to make it happen, did the best I could. I really think that it's not a particular achievement for me or specific like success or he made this big business or whatever. It's just that, tried to do life differently, tried to do life his way, did everything that he could, made things happen, and did it without regrets, without fear, as much as possible. There's a process of getting over that, and just lived a fulfilling life, fulfilling in every aspect of the word, financially, family, relational, experiential, and in many other ways. I think that really ultimately is the most important thing to me.
Incredible. We have been richly fed today. Thank you so much, Eric Thayne, for your time. And everybody, go grab the book. You will be richly fed. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.